time to get inspired and improve your yoga knowledge in English. You're listening to Your Yoga in English, a podcast for yogis and yoga teachers that speak English as their second or third language and want to practice or teach yoga worldwide. I'm Annie, the founder of Inga Unite, and here to guide you on the way to become the confident and knowledgeable English-speaking yogi you want to be. Hey!
Hi.
Good morning.
Good afternoon, good morning.
Good afternoon for you. I just spoke about that. We're here a little earlier today because we're speaking to you and you're all the way in Indonesia. How are you doing?
Very good, thank you.
Nice. Really nice seeing you. Finally meeting you in person.
Yeah, so nice.
Let me introduce you a little bit because I already said just before you got into the chat, I'm really excited about this chat because what we're going to speak about today is something I have and still struggle with sometimes. And I'm sure that I'm not the only one. I think this is a big thing among yoga teachers. So for those that are watching, today we're speaking to Gwen, and Gwen is based in Lombok in Indonesia. And she has a passion for learning with everything related to yoga. And you're dedicating your time to vinyasa, restorative, and ashtanga, right, Gwen?
Yeah, mainly.
But you've got experience with many, many more different styles, and you're also a teacher trainer. And on your teacher training, you also teach anatomy on 203-hour teaching trainings. And I thought that's why we should ask you all about how we can learn, remember, and include anatomy in our yoga classes.
Yeah, it's not an easy question.
No, I can imagine. But before we dive into the topic, could you maybe introduce yourself a little more? Who are you?
Yeah.
Where are you from? Where are you based? And since we are here with language learners, maybe you can explain your experience with learning languages as well.
Of course. And so, yeah, my name is Gwen, and I live in Nusa Lembongan, which is close to Bali. And I've been teaching yoga, teaching retreat, teaching workshops, and I teach since 5 years. For 5 years, teacher training, 200 and also 300 now. And so this is mainly what I do. This last year, we didn't do many 200, 300-hour training. So I did mainly continuing education courses online that are pre-recorded for people that are already yoga teacher, because I think we all need to learn more skills. So that's mainly what I did now. And as you can see, I am French. So I come from France, and so I live here in this tiny island since 6 years with my little one and my hubby, and that's it. And for learning languages, I've been so bad at school, so I understand that it's such a journey to learn a new language. And for me, what really helped me is just to actually leave France and to be forced to learn a new language because I had to speak with people.
Exactly. And did you learn the language of English while you were practicing yoga, or did you maybe start your journey in French?
I learned in French, but I teach only in English.
Yes, that's something we often see now, that people maybe start learning in their own language, but in the end they all switch to English because that's this international language you can reach everyone with, right?
Yeah, and it is, I think it's also, and I'm sure a lot of people are experiencing that, it's very difficult to actually teach in two languages because a lot of words have a different meaning, or in one word in French would be way more spiritual if we say this, and if we say this in English, it will not be very spiritual, for example. So it's really delicate sometimes to choose the word.
Exactly. I always say that the language of yoga in English is very different to the language we learn in a general class, or the language we speak during the day with maybe friends that are not so into yoga. But I can imagine that in French is the same. It's very, very different.
Definitely.
All right. So let's dive into the topic of today, speaking about how to learn, remember, and include anatomy in our English yoga classes. What is your experience with learning and teaching anatomy?
I think it's if we learn it everything at the same time, it's very difficult to actually put it in our own practice or even in the teaching. And it's why if the only yoga anatomy knowledge is from a 200-hour teacher training, where we are just giving you all the information we can give to you in just sometimes 2 to 4 weeks courses, it's impossible to remember everything. And I think there is no point on building ourselves up. You can't remember everything, especially things that you never use. So I think what is important is to start small and to kind of almost forget that you're supposed to know all of these things that you needed maybe for your exam in your 200-hour, and just see what are you using in your teaching. So if you want to use it in your teaching, and starting with one thing, like for example, if you are doing a vinyasa sequence and it's a hip opening sequence where you work a lot on warrior two and I don't know, pigeon pose, any of this type of posture, you might want to speak about the external rotation of the leg, of the thigh, of the femur, however you want to construct your words. But I think you just need to keep saying the same thing all the time in your class. And so, for example, you can say at the beginning of your class that we will today do hip opening. And when we do hip opening, we actually work on the external rotation of the thigh, let's say. And so I will say that often in my class. And then in the warm up, you can just like even emphasize more on that. And just remember to say it often in the class, not speaking about the whole anatomy of the body in each class, because you will not remember it and your student will not connect neither, because it's too many information. Even as a yoga teacher, it's too many information.
Exactly. So what you're saying is first, repetition is key with everything, but also focusing on one thing at a time.
Definitely.
Exactly. Yes. And how does this work in an anatomy class? You say that during the 200-hour training, they are giving you a lot of information in a short time. What is a way, or what is maybe a technique that you know for people to make it less intimidating or less overwhelming?
For me, what I like about anatomy in a yoga environment is that we can relate to the yoga asana. So when we speak about everything related to anatomy, I think it's nice to look at it in the practice so we can better understand it. In the 200 hours, I don't speak about, for example, all the blood circulation, or because I feel that's not very important as a yoga teacher, and we can't teach everything. So I understand that for some people it's important, and that's why they include it. But it's why like we all have a different approach to anatomy, and I think it's why if you're looking now at a 200-hour, it's nice to actually look at what is the focus if you're interested in anatomy. What is it? Is it very theoretical, or will it be applied a little bit and a bit more practical? Because anyway, it's a lot of information for sure.
Yes, it's something I really, really struggled with. And I think it was one of the reasons that I stopped or not even started teaching after training, because I felt so overwhelmed with all the information we got about anatomy and how to apply it. And for someone, if I'm speaking about my experience, I've always been bad at anything related to biology or science, anything with names that are foreign to me. Like, can't remember names. Very, very challenging. What would you say to those people? They have just finished yoga teacher training. They are overwhelmed with anatomy. What would you say to them?
I will say to focus on one body part movement. So for example, saying that for a week when they practice a lot the extension of the shoulder. And then they look in a book what muscles are doing the extension of the shoulder, what muscle needs to be active in an extension of the shoulder, what muscle needs to be lengthening, in what poses am I doing shoulder extension, and then just focusing on this until they get the knowledge. And then once you know, okay, I know that this is shoulder extension, I know what muscles are needed to be warm before, for example, then you can study another one. But I think it's the idea of wanting it all now is a very very common in our society in the Western world, and it's not possible to have it all the knowledge right now.
No, exactly. Speaking of which, we can't know everything. What do we actually need to know as yoga teachers? How much of this information is really required to teach a yoga class?
I will say if you are an asana yoga teacher, then it is important to know about the action of the joints. Yeah, so all the joints they can do certain type of movement, and I think it's very important to know in what direction a joint can move. For example, the knee can only extend and flex and has a slight rotation, but knowing that it cannot abduct because that will change the way that you see movement. And then to learn actually maybe not even the name of the muscles, but to know the areas that contract. And this is just very logical. I know it can be very difficult at the beginning to see it, but it's to simply look at a shape and to see, okay, what area is getting shorter, what area is getting longer, and to know how to prepare for your peak pose. For example, if you're doing a peak pose class, to know how to prepare correctly for this pose. Yeah, so it's not so much about knowing names. It's more about knowing how to warm up, for example, or how to prepare the body for a particular shape. And this, I think, is by trying to observe and to recognize on a body what is happening. So it's not so much about knowing the names of all the muscles. Yeah.
This is a really important point. And I always try to ensure teachers that we work with as well that I think it's good to have knowledge and to understand what's actually happening, but knowing all the names is not as important because the people in your class will not even know what you're speaking about if you're getting super technical. Is this something you've experienced?
Yeah, and I think that focusing only on one movement is for me really the idea of staying simple so students can also understand what we are trying to make them do in this yoga class taking.
Exactly. And then speaking to teachers again, do you know of any techniques that have helped you to maybe understand or remember, or resources that you know of that work for students?
I think it's important to, if you are doing an online 200-hour, then that's probably great because you can probably have content that you always have access to.
Yeah.
Because the problem is the 200-hour in person sometimes is too fast. And then I think it is important to have a good manual or a good book that can really help you to work per movement. One book that I like on anatomy is Your Body, Your Yoga. They have Your Yoga, Your Body. I really like this series. They did a couple already. It's really deep in the explanation, but it has to see the body differently. So I think like one of the tips is also really to not stuff up, to look, okay, today I'm doing this pose, what is happening in this pose, and to just focus even for weeks if you need to, just so you can get an understanding for your own practice and also when you teach about anatomically speaking.
I love the book you mentioned. I'm just reading it for the second time now. And it's not only really good to learn anatomy, it's also to understand your own body, right? Where you're blocking yourself or what's stopping you. I love the little acronym they're using. What's stopping me? I've got an anatomy coloring book and I felt really childish when I bought it, but I thought I need to put this into practice and actually see what's happening. Is this something you've seen before?
Yeah, I actually have this book also, the anatomy coloring book. And it's a great book to if you like to be creative and you need this type of learning, like if it's good for you. Now there is so many resources you can either cast if for you hearing is better than reading. You read books if that's helpful, depending on what you prefer. I think now what is important is to know how do you learn as an individual because there is resources for everyone now, especially this year.
Exactly, especially this year. You can't really omit it. It's everywhere. Really good point. I think when we learn things that are challenging for us, it's really important that we know what our learning style is. Because if you know your own learning style, you can adjust anything that you want to learn to that. So yes, like you said, auditory learning.
Exactly.
Exactly. All right. Is there anything else that you have as advice or things that you would like to add to this chat?
I think for yoga teachers to know that no one knows it all, and that you, as a yoga teacher, you can't know everything either. It is a journey of learning once you are certified. And so taking that as you will always learn something. So it's normal, it's good, because it's true. We don't know anything until we learn it. So trying to learn one little thing at a time.
Beautiful. I agree. The more you know, the more you don't. The more you know, the more you know you don't know.
Yeah.
And you've got many things going on. You've got online trainings. You said continuing education. You also offer anatomy courses, don't you?
Yeah, we have our 130-hour yoga anatomy course, which is for yoga teachers that needs this resource like now, or also for people that simply want to learn more about yoga anatomy, but more in a practical, not simply about physiology or biology, really on yoga anatomy.
Really nice. And what else do you have going on? Because I know you've got a Facebook group, you've got you've got many other courses. Tell us a little bit about where we can find you and what are you up to?
So, well, where you can find me is mainly on Instagram, or we have also a Facebook group that is called Learn and Teach Yoga, that is for yoga teachers or even yoga practitioners that just want to learn more and also learn how to share this knowledge, because that's a thing also. It's not just about having knowledge, it's also about sharing it to others. And so there is this, and then in courses, the last course that I released is a self-practice course that is 3 modules. So one on asana, one on kriya with Nali Kriya and pranayama. So it's a 50-hour course, which is beautiful if you are a yoga teacher for me, I feel, to be able to welcome women at all time. So many courses, there is so many things to learn.
Exactly. I obviously read into you a little bit. I'm like, oh God, she studied everything. She knows everything about everything.
I don't.
No,
but I have a lot of teachers.
A little bit about everything. Do you like that picture?
Yeah. Yeah, I do feel that I know that now everyone is speaking, for example, about niching down, and that's the whole thing now about being very precise about what you learn and doing only one thing. But for me, I also feel that to be here for my students from the moment they learn yoga until when they're very advanced, I'm happy to be able to offer many different type of learning. You need Ashtanga, sometimes you need rocket yoga, sometimes you need Vinyasa. It's very difficult for me to see that we need to be linear in the yoga journey. I think it's so vast that it's good to learn a lot.
Yes, I agree. I think it's great that you know a lot about one thing, but we need to stay informed and to have knowledge about other things as well, to not only be more compassionate in our classes, but also maybe help people, advise them or recommend them things that are maybe working better for them. I agree. We need to keep our eyes open, an open mind, be open to receive different types of knowledge.
Definitely.
Amazing. Gwen, thank you so much for joining me today and helping with this very difficult topic sometimes. It's a big thing for many people and it will be very useful to listen to.
Thank you for inviting me.
I will see you again in the Facebook group.
Perfect.
Sorry.
Until the end, internet is not great. Thank you so much, Annie. Have a nice morning.
Thank you. Have a great rest of your day.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
You listen to Your Yoga in English. brought to you by Enga Unite, a unique online learning platform for non-native English-speaking yogis and yoga teachers. If you feel inspired and liked what you learned today, don't forget to subscribe, leave us a review, and follow us at Enga Unite and become a member of our online community, Your Yoga in English, on Facebook. Practice, rest, repeat, and all will come.